Kirk supporters are outraged and mourning his death because he expressed polarizing and controversial ideas, but want to shut down others who are expressing ideas and sentiments that they don't like. We can't have it both ways. If you want the freedom to say whatever you want, then you have to accept that others have the same right, even if you totally hate and despise what they have to say. Hello again. Welcome to The Ruthless Truth. I am your host, Truth Davis. In this forum, I share opinions, thoughts, truths on a wide variety of topics based on what I believe to be a unique life experience. You can read the details in the notes or in the bio. So my intent is to share stories and hopefully provide some life and career lessons that will help you on your journey. Please follow me on Instagram at TruthDavis5. General format, I'll share some initial commentary on current news or just some thoughts. Then I'll have a deeper discussion on one topic in today's truth. And then I finish with an American history fun fact. Okay, so before I get into today's discussion, I want to first just thank all of you for listening and for your support. This week marks the 4-month anniversary of the launch of The Ruthless Truth. The podcast has been downloaded in over 200 U.S. cities as well as 11 countries around the world. Interestingly, the top 3 countries are Hong Kong, Singapore, and the UK. Again, please follow me on Instagram at TruthDavis5 and on Facebook at Ruthless Truth. Feel free to send comments on previous episodes or topic suggestions for future episodes. Okay, by far, the top news item over the past week is the death of Charlie Kirk. Now, as I've stated many times, generally speaking, The Ruthless Truth does not discuss politics or sports, and for a couple of reasons. One, if that's your interest, you can find that just about anywhere, as there are hundreds of thousands of podcasting and media outlets discussing these topics. The second reason is, I don't believe my life experience brings anything unique to the conversation. I mean, I'm an avid sports fan and a political news hound, but my experience in this area is not much different than from any of you. But the Charlie Kirk killing and the national reaction to it is far bigger than a political story. Remember, he was not an elected candidate, nor did he hold an official position or role in any aspect or level of government. And while I am not dismissing the tragedy and impact of the incident, the national reactions are far more telling about us as a nation than it is about Charlie Kirk as a person. Now, this story is about what is supposedly one of the foundational tenets, beliefs, and values of this country: the right to free speech. Sadly, I'm starting to see a rising sentiment and movement in this country where we no longer value free speech and actually want to put an end to it. You know, in the movie The American President, Michael Douglas plays the role of President Andrew Shepard. And he makes this point that democracy is hard. You know, he says, "Let's see you acknowledge a man whose words make your blood boil, who's standing center stage and advocating at the top of his lungs that which you would spend a lifetime opposing at the top of yours. Show me that. Defend that. Then you can stand up and sing about the land of the free." Democracy is hard. Free speech is hard. Again, Charlie Kirk held no office. He had no authority, implied or otherwise. he proposed nor passed any legislation. He didn't do anything other than talk. Now, full disclosure, I disagree with just about everything he ever said, but I fully recognize and supported his right to say it. But Charlie Kirk was killed simply because someone didn't like what he said. He got killed for talking, for expressing his thoughts and ideas. That is truly a tragedy. Now, he wasn't the first prominent person to be killed simply because of the expression of his views. Elijah Lovejoy was a minister, newspaper editor, and abolitionist in the 19th century. He was a vocal critic of slavery and a defender of free speech. He was gunned down by a pro-slavery mob in 1837. Other prominent assassinations in this country include Abraham Lincoln, John Garfield, JFK, MLK, Malcolm X, RFK. So, although it's been a few decades since an assassination of this magnitude, the United States has a history of political violence and the assassinations of prominent people solely due to opposition of their speech and ideas. I keep hearing this narrative. That's not who we are. Yeah, it is. But here's what's crazy now. There are currently organized efforts to identify and punish people for expressing their views of Charlie Kirk's death. While I don't condone it, there are many people who have no sympathy for Kirk's death and a small but thick minority of people who are celebrating his death. Do you see the irony? Kirk supporters are outraged and mourning his death because he expressed polarizing and controversial ideas, but want to shut down others who are expressing ideas and sentiments that they don't like. We can't have it both ways. If you want the freedom to say whatever you want, then you have to accept that others have the same right, even if you totally hate and despise what they have to say. I'm disappointed in the lack of leadership from our government and political leaders, as well as the media. Specifically, the climate of the country right now is volatile, and the toxic rhetoric is increasing. Historically, this is a time when leaders step up and encourage calm and try to diffuse the emotion and hostilities. But instead, we have prominent national politicians declaring war on their political opponents and promising retribution and payback. A recent survey showed that 1 out of 6 Americans now believe that violence is an acceptable response to political opponents. Really? Is this what we're devolving to? You know, in a recent podcast, I identified key groups in America that not only want to drive division, but actually profit from it. Well, many of them are using the Kirk situation as a catalyst to turn up the vitriol, incite their bases, and increase the likelihood of more violence. Regardless of who you support or what you believe, the current sentiment in the country is bad for all of us. All of us. You know, we can disagree and debate without violent response. Don't let others bait you into hateful opposition. Let's denounce violent rhetoric and celebrate that we all have the freedom to express our thoughts and ideas, hopefully without fear of deadly consequences. We're better than this. Let's be better than this. Okay, let's get to today's truth. Okay, today's truth. You know, question is dating dead? Probably not. But there is no question we are in the midst of a dating crisis. The situation is often referred to as a romantic recession. More and more people are single. And this is not just unmarried people, but includes people who just aren't in any type of relationship. Dating activity is down. Single people are dating less. Marriage rate is at an all-time low. And all these trends are hitting young people hardest of all. In 2022, nearly half of U.S. adults under 30 were single, which is up 6 points from 2019, based on Pew Research. In contrast, only 21% of 30 to 49-year-olds were single. So what are the key factors that are driving this dating decline? And how can the trends reverse? Typically, when I present a topic in Today's Truth, I also offer some suggestions and guidelines and even solutions to address the issue. Well, I'll tell you up front, I don't have the answer for solving the dating recession. But what I do know is single people need to find new ways to connect, because the majority of people would still prefer to be in a relationship than to be alone. Now, one factor is social norms are changing, and younger people today are just less interested in marriage and or becoming parents. And for those who are looking for a relationship, a majority, 56%, of Americans who are not married say they worry more about ending up with the wrong partner than they do about not finding someone to build a life with. 4 in 10 say they worry more about not being able to find a partner. Now, I recognize that meeting new people is challenging. Our culture is much more isolated than in previous generations. Many people work from home. There are fewer social outlets like house parties. And when there are social events, they often are not in large numbers. And the proliferation of dating apps provide meeting opportunities without initial in-person meetings. And although there has been recent declines in dating app interest due to dissatisfying experiences and safety concerns. Also, believe it or not, politics is pushing young people further apart. We are currently in a very polarizing political climate. The majority of men voted for Donald Trump, whereas the majority of women voted for Kamala Harris. Now, historically, there have always been gender skews in elections, but now more than ever, many women see it as a deal breaker, thus shrinking the pool of potential mates. Finally, there's a widening gender gap in education. The majority of college degrees are earned by women, and that gap is only increasing every year. So again, for some women, this shrinks the pool of viable prospects. So, dating has always been hard, but today, by all accounts, it's harder than ever. But if you are a person who wants to be in a relationship or still has interest in marriage, what should you do? What can you do? As I said, I don't have all the answers, but here are a few points to consider. First, prioritize in-person connections and interactions. Dating apps can still be helpful, but try to meet people through hobbies or social activities or classes. Also, your friends may be able to introduce you to new people. Second, don't be afraid of rejection. If someone's not interested in you, don't take this as an assault on your character or your value. No one clicks with everyone. Don't dwell on it. Just dismiss it and move on. Third, approach dating as communication and relationship based as opposed to transactional. Many young men today are reluctant to date because 1, it's expensive, and 2, they feel women only participate to get a free meal or something material out of it. Men are also trying to strike the balance of expressing interest and being nice without being seen by women as a simp. New couples should focus to reframe expectation for initial dates. Look for lower cost options, like maybe meeting for coffee or attending a free festival. Emphasize spending time together and getting to know one another versus spending a lot of money. Another thing, talk to each other. For many people, texting and DMs is their primary mode of communication. And I get it. It's easy and convenient. Plus, it allows you to multitask. You can carry on a communication stream while doing other things, or even with when other people. But actual voice conversation is a much more direct and powerful way to really get to know another person. Phones can actually be used for talking. Yeah. Another important thing, know your worth. You may badly want to be in a relationship, but don't compromise your personal values and don't try to be someone you are not. You should confidently recognize that you have value. You know what you bring to the table. If someone doesn't see it or appreciate it, hey, that's their loss. Believe me, I've seen it so many times. People who try to change themselves just to please someone else usually regret it and end up miserable. In addition to lowering expectations, new couples need to have some patience. Give it some time. Now, I get it if the first date was disastrous and you may have no interest in a second date. But first dates are rarely great. Both parties are nervous and unsure. They might not totally be themselves. And some people just make a lousy first impression. Go ahead. Give it a second or third date before you determine the potential merits. I've been married over 35 years, but our first date, the first date with my, not even girlfriend, then was an absolute catastrophe. I really don't know how it could have been worse. We started arguing early in the dinner and it went downhill from there. And she was driving because I didn't own a car. So she just wanted to quickly drive me to my apartment and put me out. But I was still trying to flex. So when we pulled up to my apartment, I took the keys out of the ignition and went inside. I wasn't done arguing. And she was now going to be forced to follow me inside and listen to what I had to say. But from there, I never uttered another word that evening. She walked into the apartment. She was the only one to speak. And here's what she said. I remember like it was this morning. She said, I don't know what caliber of woman you have dated up to this point, but obviously it was the minor leagues. Well, you're in the majors now, and I play hardball. Give me my fucking keys. So I just gave her her keys, and she turned around and walked out. Now, I figured I'd probably never hear from her again, at least no time soon. But we spoke the next day. My point? Hey, it can only get better from here. Obviously, there was some initial attraction and interest. So let's give it a little more time. And obviously, things went better from there. When dating, it usually doesn't take long to discover common interest. But you should also spend the time to determine if you have common values. This is a far more important factor in potential compatibility. Again, dating's hard. But if you really want to someday be in a meaningful and rewarding relationship, you just got to make the best of it. And don't give up on it too soon. I have close friends who did not find their soulmate until their 40s. It's okay to take occasional breaks, especially if you don't have a lot of available time. But I'll end the discussion with this. People make time for what's important to them. So if being in a relationship is important to you, make the time for dating. Okay, let's get to today's American history fun fact. Okay, today's American History Fun Fact. I want to tell the story of an American entrepreneur and restaurateur who founded one of the most popular restaurants in the history of the world. So, Harlan David Sanders was born September 9th, 1890 in Henryville, Indiana. He was the oldest of 3 children. His father died in 1895, and his mother got a job at a cannery, leaving the 7-year-old Harlan to care for his younger siblings. By age 7, Harlan was reportedly a skilled cook with vegetables and bread, and getting better with meat. At age 12, Harlan dropped out of the 7th grade, and from then to his late 20s, he worked in various industries and held many jobs, including farmhand, fireman, and insurance salesman. He often experienced failures and job losses due to his stubbornness, lack of self-control, and he had a propensity for getting into fights. In 1920, at age 30, Harlan established a ferry company, which became a huge success. 2 years later, he cashed out his shares in the company for $22,000, which is equivalent to over $400,000 today. In 1930, the Shell Oil Company offered Sanders a gas service station in Kentucky, free of rent, in exchange for just a percentage of the sales. Where Harlan Sanders served customers recipes from his childhood, including chicken, steak, and country ham dishes. After 4 years of serving from his own dining room table, Sanders purchased the larger filling station on the other side of the road and expanded to 6 tables. By 1936, this had proven successful enough for Sanders to be given the honorary title of Kentucky Colonel by Governor Rudy Lafayette. In 1937, he expanded his restaurant to 142 seats and added a motel he purchased across the street. His local popularity grew, and in 1939, food critic Duncan Hines visited Sanders' restaurant and included it in Adventures in Good Eating, which was Duncan Hines' guide to restaurants throughout the U.S. Sanders was dissatisfied that it took 35 minutes to prepare and cook chicken in an iron frying pan. But he was also opposed to deep frying because he believed that process lowered the quality of the food. But in 1939, the first commercial pressure cookers came to market. Now, they were intended for steaming vegetables, but Sanders modified it into a pressure fryer, which he used to fry chicken. This new method reduced the production time to be comparable with deep frying, while in the opinion of Sanders, retaining the quality of pan-fried chicken. In July 1940, at age 49, Sanders finalized what came to be known as his original recipe of 11 herbs and spices. Now, when the U.S. entered World War II in 1941, gas was heavily rationed. And as a result, Sanders struggled to keep his service station operating, and he had to close his North Carolina businesses. He spent the rest of the decade working various jobs just to generate income. But in 1952, Sanders franchised his secret recipe, Kentucky Fried Chicken, for the first time to Pete Harmon of Salt Lake City. He was the operator of one of the city's largest restaurants. In his first year, Harmon's restaurant sales tripled, with 75% of that increase coming from the fried chicken. Sanders later sold a few more franchises, but nothing of real consequence. And by 1955, at age 65, Harlan Sanders was nearly broke, surviving on Social Security and some meager savings. And at that point, he decided the road to success was franchising his original recipe. So he hit the road, visiting restaurants, cooking chicken for them. And if they liked it, he would proceed to pitch the franchise. Well, the franchise approach was very successful, and KFC became one of the first fast food restaurants to expand internationally, including the UK, Canada, and Australia. In 1962, Sanders received a patent for pressure frying process And in 1963, he trademarked "It's Finger Licking Good." Then in 1964, at age 73, Harlan Sanders sold Kentucky Fried Chicken to a Kentucky partnership. He received $2 million for the sale, which is equivalent to $20 million today. And from there, Sanders became a salaried brand ambassador and continued in that role until his death in 1980. Today, KFC is the world's second largest restaurant chain, trailing only McDonald's. There are over 30,000 locations across 150 countries. Okay. That's all I have today for you on The Ruthless Truth. Again, thank you so much for listening. Follow on Instagram at TruthDavis5, Facebook at Ruthless Truth, and I look forward to talking to you soon.